Right.
Hi everybody, this is Kathy Strain from Iron Butterflies Project. I'm here today with my good friend Seth Lear, who is a musician, songwriter, and we're just going to talk to him a little bit about how he came to be an Iron Butterfly himself and what his life entails. So let's just start out a little bit by telling us what brought you to the music industry in the first place. The short end of it, the short story.
Probably the maniacal need to be at the center of attention all the time, but another component. There were several things. It's not a short answer, unfortunately. But I was a middle child. I was always looking for ways of trying to get my parents' attention. One of the best ways that I knew how to do that was by standing up on the kitchen table and singing Ricky Martin, "Shake Your Bonbons," and then another component that was more about my songwriting and more about my I guess my purpose of an artist is through my relationship with my older brother Jamie. He was born with autism, and I was his care provider. So through the process of learning how to have a relationship with him, he was nonverbal. Learning how to have a nonverbal relationship with him, it changed tremendously. It changed the architecture and how I use language to connect with people.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about that role that you had as a caregiver to your brother.
I started around 14, just waking up before I'd catch the bus to school and getting him showered and dressed. I was this PCA worker at that point. And giving him breakfast in the morning, giving him his morning anticonvulsive medication. And then later in life, that role kind of changed as my parents split up after 30 years of their marriage. I became Jamie's guardian, to sort of try to preserve some integrity and sustainability in his life during that time. Mm-hmm. And that was a complicated thing. That really changed a lot about. That was a whole other evolution of sort of who I am now, mainly because it was so stressful that it was the catalyst that made me start doing therapy. And that was a huge component of sort of how to organize my life in a way that's going to be a bit more sustainable.
Mm-hmm. And then you were talking a little bit about your music and how your music has affected you. I mean, mm-hmm. He has affected your music. And I know there's a specific song that you sing, and we'll share that with everybody mm-hmm. as well, the song Love is a Language. Mm-hmm. And you said he's nonverbal, so tell us a little bit about how that song did come to be.
Well, the thing is, songwriting it's never a linear process. I think that song, I originally wrote that song about a Mary Kay salesman. And then it was a friend of mine, Ellis Paul, who I played it for him in my kitchen, and he was like, you're really good at the craftsmanship. And this is a wonderful story, but it's not yours. And you have a story to tell. And so I actually ended up taking another year and rewriting that song. I think it's the hardest to write honestly. those are some of the things that are so alive inside like that are difficult to get right. It takes a lot of time.
And one of the things that we talk a lot about with Iron Butterflies Project is how people take a different road and how their lives change. Sort of like that Robert Frost poem, mm-hmm. I took the road less traveled. And I really mm-hmm. believe that there is not a person in this world who hasn't taken that road less traveled. Because the road that you went down is the road that made you who you are today, which makes you that Iron Butterfly. So
I think that there, when I poke a hole in there, not to totally cut it off, is I think that there are people that, I agree with you that everyone sort of takes a road less traveled, but I do think that there are people who are unable to articulate the road mm-hmm. that they took.
You're exactly right.
And so one of the things that I think is so important for me as an artist in storytelling is that for me, what I've realized is by telling my story as honestly as possible, other people begin to hear their own. It's really not about them getting my story. That's why it's like the wonderful thing when people say, "Oh, this song meant, it made me think of my dog," and I was like, "Well, I wrote that song about, a drunken night in Chicago, so." What's your relationship with your dog? My point is that people are trying to find ways to amplify their own narrative, and that's one of the wonderful things that storytelling and in all forms of art do.
Definitely, and I really definitely see that myself, and the fact that I watch you perform and I see people's reactions to different songs. Some songs will mean nothing to somebody when somebody else will be just completely in tears, and whatever it means to them. I know we've talked a lot about the song "Too Hard to Hold the Moon," and that's the song that really made me take more of an interest in you, because it spoke to me and my life, and what my life was about, and my relationships. So, and you said you ended up, it didn't start out as a song about your parents, but it became a song about your parents.
Yeah, well, it's funny how in spite of myself, life sometimes elbows its way into the creative process. I write a lot. I mean, I'm still writing a little less than I was in previous years, but I was always trying to do about 100 songs a year.
Oh, wow.
And specifically with that song, I was watching this. I was in a relationship that was somewhat similar to the relationship between my mother and my father, and I was fascinated by the metaphor of the moon being this entity that it's sort of a dead star, and it reflects the light that's not its own, but that's what it knows how to do. I also loved that there's a dark side of the moon and there's a bright side of the moon. The duality of that seemed very human to me, and certainly my father has always dealt with addiction, alcoholism, and so that has been a large sort of component of, I think, my curiosity in duality. I do a lot of Al-Anon meetings, and it's I love the alcoholic personality. They're just the most jovial, joyful, wonderful, and sad and tormented people. But there's a lot of truth in it. That's the thing that I'm always in awe of. Is just how real that is, and I think that all people are can be that vulnerable most of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
We're very good as a culture at putting filters on things.
Yep, I always talk about that song by the Beatles. Eleanor Rigby, where they leave their face at the door their jar by the door, and that's what it is. It really is. So, to wrap it up, just tell me, what do you think your life has become, and what do you think when you think back on all of those years taking care of your brother and getting stronger and your music evolving and being where you are today? What do you think on your past and how it's affected your future, your present, not your future, but your present?
I'm not really spending too much time on the future. I find it's a bit distracting, and I'm 28, so I also don't spend a tremendous amount of time looking back with too much nostalgia on where I am. I recognize that what has happened to me belongs to me, and that I'm sort of directing my own movie, and that comes with responsibility. But I think in general, I'm mostly in a state of filled with just an incredible amount of gratitude to be able to make my living doing whatever it is that I do. Playing shows, whether they're to 50 people, whether they're to 100 people, that somehow that works in my life, and that I have a family relationship that supports me. I have a girlfriend who's incredible and incredibly supportive. I mean, those are the things that I'm really grateful towards, and I'm grateful to the loyalty of people that keep coming to my shows after 10 years. Like when I was 18, I don't even know what I was singing. Like, what did I have to say? But I feel like I'm just kind of getting going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of turning a corner on being able to use my brushstroke in a way that's really intentional. That's a big part of my life now, is trying to live intentionally.
That's great, yeah, and like I said, you've inspired a lot of people, and I think that, we talked about my son and how he has been inspired by you, and you guys are kind of two peas in a pod, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that you guys have that relationship.
It's a
You've
weird
helped
pod,
him
isn't
through. It is
it?
a very weird pod, but that's okay. But you've helped him through, and you're both working through your lives and doing your things, and it's great to have somebody.
We all should be so lucky to be
That's
working
right.
through our lives.
That's right, exactly. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
I sure
for your time.
appreciate your time, and I sure appreciate you being able to come here and do this.
Thanks.
So we'll talk to you soon.
Cool.